After a cautionless race at Chicagoland last week, it was a return to form for Bradley Holly, with an excellent pit entry and exit securing him the win on strategy. But with Daniel Knight and Jared Mogard both only 1 point back and looking strong this season, will they be able to break the momentum of the three-time champion, or will Holly ride off into the sunset once again? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by Diecast Kings, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and joining me in the booth is Chris Phoebe. Our director tonight will be Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. While last week was one of the most standard tracks in NASCAR, this week the truckers head to the Tricky Triangle. To find out what makes this vast, flat track so fascinating, let's take you down to our track guide.
Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania is probably one of the most unique oval tracks in the country and has a long and storied history of racing. Opening in 1971, they wanted this place to be different, so why not make it have 3 turns? That's right, a triangle. But isosceles triangles are boring, so let's model each turn differently with different radiuses and banking. So around here, you have this incredibly long front straight, known as the Long Pond Straight, 3,740 feet long and 100 feet wide. It's known for the incredible fanning out that happens in starts and restarts, but you have to get sorted before you get to turn 1. Turn 1 is banked at 14 degrees, modeled after the old Trenton Speedway. It gets tight quick, and you need to pick the right line to be fast here. Your lap depends on it. Turn 2 is banked at 9 degrees and inspired by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's fast and quick, and if you hear somebody refer to the tunnel turn during the race, it's turn 2 they are talking about, with the tunnel to the infield running underneath. Turn 3 is only banked at 6 degrees, and it's modeled after Milwaukee. It's long and sweeping, almost feels like it won't end before you jump back onto that truly endless front stretch. Pocono is most known for stock car racing, but it was originally designed for open-wheel racing, and USAC Kart and IndyCar all had tenures here. Today we race on the new version of Pocono and iRacing. With its repaved track surface and redone interior walls, it's as fast and tight as ever. And we'll be sure to put the Tricky in Tricky Triangle.
We saw a couple laps around at Pocono, and here to tell us a little bit more about how this truck gets around this track is our co-commentator, Chris Phoebe.
Well, Adam, much like the Pocono region being home to the world's first heart-shaped jacuzzi tub, it's also home to a triangular-shaped racetrack. Varying degrees of banking, as the 3 turns are modeled after some of the most famous oval tracks in the history of the United States: Indianapolis, Trenton, and drawing a blank on the third one for some reason. But nonetheless, a track that races totally different from end to end to end, being triangular shaped, and we're going to see drivers racing a compromise race. It'll be a lot easier for them to maybe handle 2 corners, and then one might be a throwaway, so to speak. So the focus is going to be on mastering as much of the lap as you can, and trying to limit damage in the areas where you're not at your best.
Absolutely, Chris. And one of the things that we want to talk about as we take a look at, once again, our commentators here. This is I'm Adam Lindgren. That's Chris Phoebe. We have Sean Ambrose, our director, and Dougie Beard on the cameras for today. We also want to talk about our sponsor for this season's competition. That is Diecast Kings. Shop Diecast Kings, your home for the best selection of NHRA, NASCAR, and now introducing the IndyCar diecast for what is still the 2020 season. I know it feels like we've moved on, but you can pick yours up today at diecastkings.com. And Chris, it looks like we have a league sponsor still as well.
That's right. Happy to welcome back the ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Visit thebuttkicker.com today to view their full line of products.
Looks like a A lot of truck drivers having trouble exiting 4 there, but one of the things they're not having trouble with is scoring points. Let's take a look at our points from last round. They're pretty much as they finished, but there are a couple of bonus point scenarios that make things a little bit more interesting. Bradley Holly won last night, but Daniel Knight and Jared Mogart are both tied for second place, only 1 point back. Adam Zemke is 5 points out of the lead, with Colton Lane just 1 point back of him, so it's actually quite tight for the top up there. All right, and for the team's championship, Chris, what are we looking at right now?
It's a very close race early on in the season for the team standings as well. Just 4 points separating our top 4 teams, with the Whataback Jelly Rolls Racing team on top. Just a 3-point advantage over Back Row Racing. And then the Car Ramrod and Riding Shotgun Rangers are tied for third with the Rescue Racing Camo Rescue Squad. Only 14 markers back here after one event.
And for those of you who are just joining us today or are new to sim racing in general, here are the race details. We're at round 2 of 10 here on the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. They're going to run 45 laps around this track. It is 2.5 miles, so that's quite a long ways. It is as long as the super speedways. They're running fixed setups, the same you can race in the C Fixed series in iRacing official series. They have no fast repair and a 24 hard incident limit. That means if you cross it, you will disappear from the track. These guys are going to be running 100% fuel, and for a new rule this season, they only have 3 extra sets of tires on top of the one they start upon. So that actually could come into play here today, Chris.
That's right. This is a fairly long race for these drivers, especially at a track this size. So be really interested to see tire conservation come into play, as it's a pretty new element of the strategy here, not only in this league, but really in iRacing in general, now that the tire limits have been put out.
30 seconds left in practice and 35 cars on the grid today. That is almost the full field that registered to compete in the league this season. So awesome to see that many drivers out there right now as we get ready to start qualifying. Chris, what are your expectations?
I'm really interested to see the different approaches on how these drivers take to this track. It's one of the most unique tracks in the country, and like I said, driving ability here is at a premium because there's so much, even on a fixed setup, there's so much you can do to try to make the truck work in one end that may possibly help you find something somewhere else. And 3 totally different corners here at Pocono is going to make for a really great race.
Qualifying just getting underway now, and as the trucks get ready to get out there, let's take a look at our weather for today. It's actually pretty toasty out there on track. 114 degrees Fahrenheit on track with 79 degrees in the air, and not much wind out there right now. Partly cloudy, so hopefully they get some cloud cover to relieve them, but that's going to be a lot of wear on those tires, and with only 3 extra sets in the pits, these drivers might be a little bit strained if we get a long run of cautions.
Yeah, that's a hot track, and that's going to mean a lot of slip sliding around, and that's going to eat up those tires very quick.
A lot of drivers out there right now trying to get those qualifying laps in as early as possible, because with the sun high in the sky, it is 3:15 virtual standard time, which means it may or may not get hotter or cooler. So a lot of these drivers want to get out there and make sure that they knock some laps out before the track gets any hotter than this. So we have drivers like Adam Young, Barron Hilton, William Lee, one of our new drivers, Jared Mogart, who's currently tied for second out there, as well as Stacy Hunter and Austin Hunter, and Brandon Sauls, another new driver to the series, out there trying to set their fastest laps.
Yeah, and with a 35 truck field, starting position is going to be at a premium. These guys are going to want to get those laps in and do the best they can, obviously, because you don't want to get caught up in the middle of the pack if something happens here at Pocono.
Colin Carroll, another one of our newer drivers out there in the number 12 truck. That Florida driver just now coming into the tunnel turn, crossing the tunnel right now. That is going to be a very interesting passing point. It's one of the more risky ones on the track, Chris, and we've seen a lot of truck drivers in the past try and make moves there, but it's also one of the ones that you have to get a good run into turn 3 for. So what is your best estimation on how to make a pass through the tunnel turn?
Dumb luck is what I feel like whenever anybody gets through the tunnel turn unscathed, trying to go too wide to make a pass. It really seems like it's one of those situations where you got to hope the person that you're trying to pass for position is willing to play ball. because if they decide to be a little bit defensive, it could be the end of the day for both of you.
Thomas Sink jumps up to the top of the board early on here. He was the fastest driver in practice, so Thomas doing a very good job right now. Brandon Walter crosses the line with a 57.31. Unfortunately, that's only going to be good enough for 10th provisionally. Nicholas Schwartz, another newer driver we've seen out there, crosses with the 57.417. That's good enough for 13th position, but the times are coming in quick and fast, and everybody's out there, including current series champion Bradley Hawley, out there trying to set a time.
Yeah, look for Holly to be one of those drivers that moves up towards the top of the charts, too. He's obviously one of the best in the series, and as your defending champion and current points leader, he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders.
Looks like Baron Hilton starting to deal with a little bit of tightness exiting the corner as he came out of 3 and 4. That's a 47.402 will be his fastest lap. John LeBaff crosses with a 57.207 on his second lap. So these second laps are not faster right now.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense with the hot track too. They're probably using up a lot of the good on the first flying lap. And look at that, Bradley Hawley top of the charts now, a 56.564, over a tenth of a second better than Thomas Sink.
Well, that is a very quick time, and Bradley Hawley clearly was putting in some longer runs there. So as Adam Young crosses the line here, that's a 57.197, and that will stick, so that's good enough for 18th position. These times are very close together. The top 15 underneath half of a second here as they start crossing the line. Looks like Brandon Sauls is going to slide coming out of 4. Managed to keep it going, but that's going to be a slower time for him for sure.
Yeah, looks like that's definitely going to scrub some speed off. These trucks like to perform better when they're pointed in the right direction and not heading head-on into the wall.
Now, there are very few amount of racing vehicles that do perform better when they're at an angle, and these trucks are not one of them. Bradley Hawley crosses the line again. Once again, not a quicker time on his second lap, so he will stick with that 56.564. Brett Adams crossing the line for the first time with a 57.091. For Brett, that's going to leave him in 18th position. Mark Kalin crossing around the same time, so that's going to be good enough for a couple of spots up ahead, actually to 8th position. That's how tight they are in those spots up there. 9 seconds left. Jose Medina might not get to the line in time, and I don't believe he will. He's going to bail off to pit lane. So that will do us for qualifying and take us to the grid. Bradley Hawley is going to be on pole today for the Precision Racing League trucks here at Pocono, with Tristan Callahan starting off in second place. Thomas Sink knocked down to third on Tristan's second lap. A good turnout for him. Aaron Webb's going to start off fourth alongside Thomas Sink in row 2. Row 3 is going to be Brendan Chatley and Doyle Lawrence. Jared Mogard's going to start off in 7th position alongside Mark Kalin in 8th. Doug Evans and Jose Medina round out your top 10.
Well, just outside of the top 10, you're going to find Charles Sumner in 11th with Blaine Adams in the 12th position. Adam Zemke, lucky number 13 on the grid, with Daniel Knight starting outside of row number 7. Inside of the following row is going to be Colin Carroll starting 15th on the grid, with Colton Lane starting a bit further back than we're used to. Paul Johnson inside of row number 9 with Brett Adams to his outside. Then John LeBaff and Brandon Walter, complete your top 20.
We start to hit some of the less familiar names. Nicholas Schwartz in 21st position, starting alongside a familiar name from last season, Adam Young. Nicholas Hunter is going to line up alongside Adam Shane in row 12, with Matthew Haubrey starting out 25th and Austin Hunter in 26th. Stacy Hunter is going to start out 27th, with Jeffrey Ford in 28th. J.R. Bash and Baron Hilton will round out your top 30.
And our driver starting towards the back of the top 30. The outside of the top 30, Brody Green in 31st with William Lee outside of him. Then Brandon Sauls, our last driver to make a qualifying attempt. Matthew Wilford, Christopher Williams, and Mike Richter not putting in a lap during qualifying.
And as we get ready to go and the Mustang pace car gets ready to roll, we want to talk about our race sponsor for this session. That is iRacing Flea Market. iRacing Flea Market is the place to go for buying and selling sim racing equipment, boasting the largest sim racing buy-sell group with over 20,000 members. Be sure to join and look around today. iRacing Flea Market, the #1 sim racing page on Facebook. Search for iRacing Flea Market on Facebook today to learn more.
I gotta say that iRacing Flea Market is a tremendous resource for those of you who are looking to break into iRacing at home, or those of you that want to upgrade the equipment you have at a pretty bargain price.
Well, as the trucks roll off from their wonderfully fanned out positions here, I just love seeing this view, and our director Sean Ambrose and our cameraman Dougie Beard get fantastic views for us every single week. I want to give a big shout out to them as well, as we get the full field out there in that one shot. It's awesome to see. All right, as they get ready to go, how tough do you think it's going to be here on the start? We've seen 4 or 5 wide at times at Pocono in the past.
Yeah, that's something we're definitely probably going to see here today, Adam. There's just so much room to race out here, and especially when they get fanned out down that front straightaway with the pedals down, heading towards turn 1. It's really a sight to behold here in the Pocono Mountains.
Bradley Holly is going to lead them off in that Whataback Jelly North Star title machine. The Diecast banner on top. Bradley Holly with a very commanding win last week, taking a great pit entry and exit as they go down the second of the 2 back straights here. They're about to go through turn 3. There is no turn 4 here at Pocono, so when we talk about turn 3, that will be the final turn. Bradley Holly will lead them to the line as soon as the Mustang pace car pulls off.
And that's going to be a pretty long run after that pace car pulls off, too.
So the pace car leaves. We will see whether or not Bradley Holly jumps early. He's going to keep them in line there. Looks like they're waiting for the green flag, and now they go. Looks like we have a couple trucks jumping out a little bit behind them, but they're all going to stay more or less in line here as they head towards turn 1. Tristan Callahan just losing a little bit of time here because of the jump that Bradley Holly got. He's going to be stuck on that outside. Bradley Holly able to clear him. Wow, Tristan really struggling on that outside lane. Can't keep it down. Thomas Sink is going to chase Bradley Holly through. It looks like they're going to be relatively clean exiting turn 1.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the way everybody kept pace into the first turn here. One thing that was kind of unique was we didn't see everybody fan out down the front straightaway like it's kind of known to happen here at Pocono a little bit. So really cool to see everybody kind of keeping it lockstep as we have an incident towards the back of the field.
Yeah, it looks like JR Bash is involved. Brody Green in the number 20 machine as well. Those two are parked on the side of the road, as well as Jeffrey Ford in the 095. We're going to take a look at this. Oh, it was a big mess in front of him. That looks like, I believe that was Brody Green in the 20 machine that got into the wall early.
Yeah, Adam, looks like JR Bash was a little bit late to the party, but unfortunately really had nowhere to go as that other truck went, just bounced right off of him. Just a tough break for everybody involved.
It looks like the 20 machine got spun off the nose of another truck, so unfortunately a caution here on lap 1. Now remember, this is something that we didn't get to talk about last week, but something we'll talk about this week, the new tire limits. It's going to be 3 extra sets of tires for these drivers. So if they come into the pits, they really have to be sure to make sure that they tell their crew chiefs whether or not to take their tires, to put new tires on those machines. And think about 2 tires might be a strategy for these guys.
And you know, Adam, if those at home are trying to keep track of all the pits going on here at Pocono Raceway today, GSRC.tv is a tremendous resource they can use at home to follow along with all the same stats and information that we get here during the broadcast and keep up with all their favorite drivers here in the PRL.
So we're going to have a couple more laps here under caution. We didn't get to see that much racing, but it sure looked like Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink were able to pull away a little bit. Tristan Callahan was battling with Brendan Chatley for that 3rd position side by side as they went through the tunnel turn. And we know how hard that can be to keep the trucks off of one another going through there, as we even saw a wreck there. Looks like Thomas Sink is going to be looking possibly to come to pit lane. He thinks better of it. We will keep track of which drivers decide to go to pit lane as we continue pacing.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's amazing these drivers can race 45 laps around Pocono. I always end up holding my breath when I go through the tunnel turn, so I make it like 20 laps maybe and end up with a huge headache. So I'm pretty proud of these guys that they can put 45 laps together.
Yeah, it's extremely stressful going through this course. It is one of the flatter courses in iRacing, especially one with speeds that get up to over 186 miles per hour down the front straight. This is one of the scarier tracks to run, and ever since the repave, it's been a little bit more manageable, but back before the repave, it was extremely bumpy, and that could really just throw you out of the corners and into the outside walls.
Yeah, with the amount of speed you carry around here, it kind of had that same feeling of the pre-repave Daytona when you're just barreling around the track and, I mean, you're white knuckling your wheel trying to keep it from just turning you into the wall just based on the, we'll call it the unleveled terrain around the track.
Most of the drivers are able to execute bump drafts around here now with the repave. Back when it was bumpy, it was really not possible to do that. You'd end up hooking bumpers or lifting someone's rear tires off the ground and end up spinning them around. So it makes this track a little bit more racy, especially with the paved runoff on the inside now, especially in the tunnel turn. Clipping the apex is not quite the penalty it used to be.
You know, it's a little bit off topic here, but really great to see the shape that the track is in today, both virtually and in real life. Pocono Raceway, if you look back at its history, has battled money troubles for pretty much the entirety of its existence and still remains one of the very few independent tracks in major motorsports. They're not owned by a major corporation like pretty much every other track that is of any prominence here in North America. And the Mattioli family that built this track and really with a background in dentistry, turned this place into a historic spot in North American racing, both open wheel and stock car. And it's really cool to see this track not only surviving, but thriving. And it's kind of been at the heart of some innovation in the NASCAR world. It was supposed to host our first doubleheader weekend in the real world. And they've been really doing what they can to make a track that maybe has a reputation for being a little bit less exciting than some of the other tracks. And do what they can to make it, if not exciting, then at least more interesting.
And we will see that doubleheader happen this weekend in the real world. And as they start to line up 2 by 2 now, we do have updates on some drivers that ended up with damage. Christopher B. Williams, Matthew Williford in the 31st and 32nd spots. They're back out on track. Jeffrey Ford and Brody Green are still taking damage repairs in the pits. And J.R. Bash and Mike Richter look like the two of them. Actually, Mike Richter's just getting back on track, but J.R. Bash looks like he's out for the day.
Yeah, it's a shame to be out this early in a race with such a long distance to go. Just makes for a really frustrating night for the driver that has to park it early.
Yeah, and Chris, J.R. Bash has actually been very strong in the last couple of races of last season, so it really is unfortunate to see him drop out that early.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers that I'd say is a pretty fair dark horse pick in this series. He runs pretty solidly, and I think is somebody that definitely has a future here moving up in the rankings.
All right, so Bradley Holly will lead them to the line right in behind that Mustang pace car as it gets ready to pull off as they go through turn 3 here. Thomas Sink will line up outside of him, with Tristan Callahan lining up in 3rd, Brendan Chatley in 4th, and Jared Mogard in 5th position. So as the pace car pulls off, Bradley Holly will be the one to take them to the line. And it looks like Thomas Sink lining up a little bit ahead of him. Bradley jumps on it, and Thomas Sink is able to jump as well. A little bit of fanning out in the background, I believe, as Doyle Lawrence jumping on the line right in behind them. But Bradley Holly's not going to be able to clear Thomas Sink before he gets to the entrance of one. We have a wreck in the back of the field once again. That is going to be the 312 of Austin Hunter.
Yeah, it looks like the field might have started with a stack up. Tristan Callahan really did not get going on that restart, and I'm not sure if maybe backed up that inside line enough to maybe cause some trouble. You can see people already having to duck out with the field checking up, and just watching from above here, just beating on each other towards the back of the field. And there you go.
Yeah, the 312 of Austin Hunter checked up to make sure he didn't get into the back of everybody, and ended up getting sent around there by the 71 there of Stacy Hunter. Stacy completely unknowing about the checkup. It wasn't called on the radios that I could hear, so unfortunately Austin Hunter's still trying to get out of turn 1 with massive damage. Well, as these drivers As these drivers ride around under caution, we are going to take a short break here on the GSRC, but don't go anywhere. We will be back shortly with more racing. Welcome back to the Precision Racing League Truck Series here at Pocono Raceway, sponsored by Diecast Kings. We have had 2 cautions in quick succession. And
It looks like we're trying to get the bugs worked out here in the early running, trying to get these truck drivers back in shape. They went caution free last week, but apparently a little bit antsy to get things underway here in Pocono today.
Yeah, so as we get ready to go back green, and it's going to be Bradley Hawley once again leading them to the line. There really is no change in the top 5 except for the addition of Aaron Webb in that 5th position instead of Jared Mogard. Aaron was able to get past him before the caution. Second to green last time. but Bradley Holly will lead them to the line again, and Thomas Sink got a really good jump last time. It'll be interesting to see whether Bradley tries a different strategy to try and clear him before they get to 1. So as the pace car pulls off, Bradley Holly jumps immediately, and so does Thomas Sink. Thomas actually getting a better start than Bradley. This one hopefully won't stack up the field behind them as they get going. Thomas Sink's going to be side by side with them as they go through 1 here. They're going to dive into 1. It's such a long front stretch that they just are now entering turn 1. Thomas Sink trying to hang it loose on the outside of the track. He ends up going a little bit too deep, though, pushes up out of the line, and Bradley Holly's able to clear him as they exit 1.
It looks like he didn't get too far behind there, Adam. He's right in lockstep with Bradley Holly, maybe trying to get a hint of a draft as they head down that first straightaway.
So here they go back through the tunnel turn. This is one of the more stressful turns on the circuit. There are only 3, so there's not many to pick from. But look at this, Jared Mogard back in the 5th position, taking a look on Tristan Callahan. He's going to dive to the inside of that corner and try and make it stick. He clips that yellow line, but look at this. Tristan carrying some good speed there on the outside of the corner. He's able to get a better run off. So Jared Mogart's going to have to fall back in behind them. This should give a little bit of a run to Charles Sumner in behind them, but they've made a nice breakaway up there in the top 5.
That's definitely one of the tricks to this track, Adam. If you can make the outside of turn 3 work, you're going to be able to make a lot of passes there. And if you can carry that momentum through turn 3 down the straightaway, it's going to help you tremendously on your entrance into turn number 1 as well.
Most of the drivers single file now all the way back to Brett Adams in the 17th position, and Blaine Adams now in 13th, getting passed by Daniel Knight for 12th position as the leaders go through the tunnel turn one more time. These truck drivers, it's hot out there, and they're getting a little bit scared to go side by side right now. But once again, Daniel Knight looking to make a move on Doug Evans now for the 11th position. Daniel Knight looks like he's trying to make some moves early.
Yeah, you said it, Adam. This track is very hot, and these drivers are struggling a little bit with grip, it seems, early on in this run.
So as they get sorted back out, and well, not really sorted out, Daniel Knight's still trying to make that pass there. Thomas Sink actually gets the fastest lap because he's in the draft of Bradley Holly. He decides not to make a move, so this battle on track is the best one we have right now. And this is between Daniel Knight and the 41 machine of Doug Evans. Doug trying to hold well on that outside, but that outside lane is just not working for them yet, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some more laps to get that outside groove rubbered in a bit before it's really a possibility to make a run, and not too many people wanting to try it out up there yet, so that may also delay the inevitable of getting that rubbered in quicker. And with so many laps ran under caution here in the early going, these guys, if they're going to want to make that happen, they're going to have to head up there soon.
So as we jump back up to the top 3, it is very tight between them. Bradley Holly, Thomas Sink, and Brendan Chatley. And Jared Mogard actually looks like he had a moment there with Tristan Callahan. Thomas Sink also having a moment tucked in behind Bradley Holly, trying to stay right in behind him. He's not intent on trying to make a pass quite yet. He thinks he's still going to bide his time. Do you think the tire limitations have something to do with that?
That could definitely be playing a role. I mean, you probably don't want to push it any more than you have to, because once the tires start to fall off and you start losing time, you only have 3 chances to get a new set of tires on. So you really have to play the strategy out perfectly to be able to make this work out. So maybe not wanting to push the issue this early on. And of course, as I say that, we have a pass for 3rd right now with Jared Mogard making the move up into the top 3 positions.
Jared Mogard ended up making that move. Tristan Callahan's going to try and follow him through as he goes to the inside of Brendan Chatley. Brendan Chatley getting a little bit freight trained at the moment, but he's able to tuck in behind Tristan Callahan. So we're going to jump on board with Brendan Chatley as he tries to tuck in behind Tristan and get a little bit of a draft and maybe try and recover that position.
And with that 77 to Tristan Callahan, he's definitely one of the most colorful looking paint schemes we have out there today.
Yeah, so Tristan Callahan looks like he's washing up a little bit through the corners. We saw, I talked to some of the truck drivers before the broadcast, and they were complaining about tight setups here. And they were also talking about how saving your tires early on could mention significant benefits later on in the runs. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they follow that advice. As they run, we have Bradley Holly in 1st, Thomas Sink 2nd, Jared Mogard in 3rd right now, with Tristan Callahan in 4th in that colorful 77 machine, and Brendan Chatley in the 5th position. Our first battle on track is actually between Doyle Lawrence and Mark Kalin, I believe. Doyle Lawrence and Adam Zemke, rather, for the 9th position, and right in behind them, Daniel Knight is battling with Mark Kalin for 10th.
Now, Adam, with this being a relatively new surface here at Pocono, do you think, how long do you think before these drivers start to hit the tire cliff?
I would say it's going to happen a lot earlier than they want. We actually had a door-to-door moment between Thomas Sink and Jared Mogard for the 2nd spot up there. And once again, we're going to take a look at this as Jared Mogard still looking to the inside. I'm 100% sure. We've seen how aggressive Mogard has been in seasons past, and looks like he's being aggressive once again. Thomas sinking a little bit loose in the corner. He's going to actually try and block off Mogard here. Mogard's going to go to the inside. Thomas Sink's going to try and beat him to the apex. That's a dangerous move to make this early in the race. Sink's going to miss the apex a little bit. Jared Mogard on the inside. He can't get the power down. This might be what Tristan Callahan needs to try and make up a couple positions here.
We did also talk about that outside line off of turn 3 maybe being a little more advantageous. Thomas Sink ran a little bit higher up the track, and with that, he's been able to hold off a charge from Mogard down that long front straightaway. But you are surely right about Tristan Callahan.
Oh!
Callahan gets to the back bumper on Mogard. Looks like everyone able to keep it pointed straight, but that could have been real bad real quick.
So here comes Brendan Chatley now to the inside, and like you said, the trucks are momentum machines, so if you lose any momentum like Tristan Callahan did, having to get out of it because he got into the back of Jared Mogard, that means that opens the door for Brendan Chatley and Charles Sumner to try and squeeze through here. So Brendan Chatley's going to make that move. Well, not quite make that move, but if he's still side by side when they go into 3, which he won't be because Tristan actually backs out of it a little bit to try make sure that he can get the apex.
You mentioned these trucks being momentum machines. Also keep in mind when they have to break that momentum, it's not something you can recover at the snap of a finger. I mean, you really have to work to get those trucks wound back up, and you could just hemorrhage positions trying to get that momentum built back up.
Hoping his nose out in the back was Colin Carroll in the 15th position. He was unable to make a move on Blaine Adams, but look how close it is between Callahan up there and Brendan Chatley. They almost touch again, and Tristan has to get out of it once again. This could give Charles Sumner another chance at a run.
Yeah, looks like Sumner definitely closed in as they head towards the tunnel turn.
Sumner actually backing out of it a little bit, didn't want to carry as much speed through the corner as Callahan wanted to. Callahan looks like he's got the tunnel turned down, but the trouble is he can't seem to figure out how to manage his momentum when he gets tucked in behind another truck. As they run, Bradley Holly leads the race with Thomas Sink in 2nd, Jared Mogard 3rd, and then this battle on screen between Brendan Chapman and Tristan Callahan for 4th. Charles Sumner tucked in close behind them in 6th position.
Well, Adam, after a couple quick cautions there early on, I gotta say, once these guys have gotten going, this has been a lot of great green flag racing here at Pocono.
But it hasn't been without risk. We've seen just how dangerous those moves have been and how much contact we've actually seen here at Pocono. That's not something we're necessarily used to seeing, as all these trucks are having such a hard time staying in line. The battle for 10th is actually getting on pretty good between Doral Lawrence and Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson going to the inside of Doral Lawrence, heading into the tunnel turn. Mark Kalen's going to try and follow him through. He has to brake a little bit early, though. So it looks like Paul Johnson's going to be able to hang on to that position.
Well, looking up front, Adam, looks like Jared Mogard beginning to run down Thomas Sink. Of course, as I say that, Sink gets a little bit of a gap. But Mogard is one of those drivers that is very aggressive and does not usually wait to make a move. So if he can get back to the bumper of the 48 truck, look to see Mogard in the U truck make an effort to make a move.
The question is, will his tires last long enough to continue to be combat competitive here? We've passed 18 of 45 laps. That is past a quarter of the way through. So at this point, if they were to take a caution, they would absolutely take tires.
And the longer this run goes down, or goes on, I should say, how long before these drivers have to start considering a green flag stop?
Well, I can tell you that they are just about a second off of their fastest lap, which is a 56.913 from Jared Mogard, who looks like he's got our fastest lap so far. I stand corrected. A 56.829 from Adam Zemke in 8th position. So as Jared Mogard continues to hang on to the back of these guys, he doesn't seem to be making any progress.
Well, maybe Jared has decided discretion is the better part of valor, and maybe wants to try to maintain the tires.
We're gonna drop back down to P10. This is Paul Johnson being chased by Mark Kalin, Doyle Lawrence. Doyle Lawrence stuck way on that high side. He's going to try and make it work around the outside of Mark Kalin and is actually able to get a decent run out there. He was able to keep the truck underneath him and not wash out too far, so he's going to be able to carry some speed, and Mark Kalin's going to have to drop in behind him.
Yeah, Doyle Lawrence looks like the first driver that we've really seen have any success on that outside line through turn 1.
But he washes out through the tunnel turn. That's going to give Mark Kalin another opportunity here on the inside. Mark had to get out of it a lot, though, so they're losing a ton of time to Paul Johnson. Doyle Lawrence having to try and... This is one of the hardest places to try and cool down outside tires because of how flat the track is.
Oh, and we got the 41 truck going around.
Doug Evans in the background, everyone swerving to avoid him. It looks like most people are going to manage to, so it's going to be a single truck incident, and that will bring out our third caution of the day.
Well, I got to say that 41 did a great job of locking that one down. It could have easily rolled back into traffic and caused a whole lot of issues coming off of turn 3 there at one of the faster points of the track. So we're going to take a look at the replay here, and looks like he just got up out of the groove a little bit, Adam.
He got up out of the groove, and he was helped by Colton Lane on the inside in that 60 machine, the red, white, and blue machine, the popsicle truck. We're seeing it right now as Colton washes up off of that bottom groove and just makes a little bit of contact with that left rear quarter panel, which ends up sending the 41 into the wall.
Well, we had talked about green flag stops being a possibility. Do you think we see everybody hit pit road this time?
I would 100% expect that people are going to hit pit road. With a second off of your delta, it's going to be difficult to try and keep up with the pace of the guys who do get tires. So anyone who doesn't take tires is going to be a sitting duck out there. But that being said, it has been hard to pass today, so it'll be interesting to see if anyone does decide to stay out for track position.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think it would be pretty unexpected if anyone did stay out, but it could work out to your favor, especially bunching the field back up and the old adage of cautions breeding cautions. Maybe we see somebody towards the back of the field feeling a little bit adventurous.
Yeah, and that being said, Chris, if I was a driver, I would say to my crew chief, hey, these guys have wrecked twice under restarts, and with new tires, they're going to be even more bunched up. So why not take the risk and stay out? And maybe we can get some track position in pit the next time around.
It's a pretty solid point there as well, Adam.
So as they go through the second straight into turn 3, the longest corner on the track, or at least it feels like it for sure when you're driving it because of how flat the profile is, Bradley Holly will lead them towards pit road, and we'll see what the strategy play is going to be. I would expect the top 5 at least to pit. They were fighting pretty hard early on here. So here they come now. Bradley Holly leading them to pit road. It looks like it's going to be pretty much everybody. We do see a couple of trucks out there deciding not to come to pit road. We'll keep our eyes on those as everybody but 2 trucks looks like they're coming.
Yeah, this is pretty much as expected here with the majority of the field coming down for pit stops.
Everyone hits their boxes fairly cleanly. I didn't see anyone miss theirs per se, so looks like it's going to be 4 tires and fuel for everybody. Once again, the fuel, they do get 100%, but that means they are going to have to pit once for fuel. I don't think this will take them to the end at 22 laps, but that is about halfway. So this could be their final stop for fuel. We'll have to see. Bradley Holly beats them all out with Thomas Sink in second. Charles Sumner jumps up to third. Tristan Callahan comes out fourth, and Jared Mogard fifth.
And once again, for those of you following along at home, if you'd like to see how these pit stops have shaken out throughout the field, and you don't like the sound of Meyer Adams' voices, you can always check into GSRC.tv and be your own commentator at home.
Those of you who are watching GSRC TV, you eagle-eyed viewers will notice that we have lost 2 drivers, Brody Green and J.R. Bash so far. William Lee, Mike Richter, Jeffrey Ford, Austin Hunter, and Baron Hilton all have damage, but Jeffrey Ford, Mike Richter, and William Lee have all gotten back out on track and are circling around towards the back of the pack, multiple laps down. Jeffrey Ford is the first truck on the last truck on the lead lap. He was the lucky dog machine this time around, which is why he stayed out and is pitting this time by.
I've got to redeem myself from talking about the track earlier, Adam. I somehow managed to blank that turn 3 was based on the turn at the Milwaukee Mile. I don't know how I was able to do that, but I just have to redeem myself as a race fan and make sure I get that one in.
Yeah, what makes that so interesting, Chris, is that the Milwaukee Mile, you do not carry nearly as much speed through those turns as you do here in the trucks. So that's what makes turn 3 so challenging, as these trucks are going to go double file once again. The Mustang pace car is going to lead them around as we get another wave by. One of our other trucks is going to make it back onto the lead lap. That is William Lee, who's going to make it back. He's going to recover actually one of his 9 laps that he is down. Bradley Hawley will lead them back to the line with Thomas Sink in second, Tristan Callahan third, Charles Sumner fourth, and Jared Mogard fifth. It's funny, Chris, after saying that, it sure seems like we had a decent green flag run there, but nothing much changed up at the front.
Yeah, as the great philosopher Randall Savage once said, the cream rises to the top. And some of the top drivers in the series were the ones that qualified at the front of the field, and they've been hanging out there. What's kind of surprised me is it seems like Thomas Sink is very fast and can at least match pace with Bradley Hawley, but it seemed like early in that run he didn't want to make a move. And as the run went on, Hawley kind of got away from him. So I wonder if maybe we see him push the issue a little bit earlier on than he did in the previous run, and maybe even attempt to make a pass here in the early going.
And the drivers towards the back of the pack trying to warm up their tires a little bit, trying to get these cold tires up to temperature, especially because they're going to need to glue to a very hot track. So if they don't have the surface up to temp, when they go into turn 1, they're going to be in for a surprise looseness. But as they go through turn 3, that turn that is profiled after the Milwaukee Mile, as you just said, the Mustang pace car will peel off and Bradley Hawley will lead them to the green. Last time, he jumped immediately. Let's see what it does this time. The pace car pulls off and Bradley jumps again. This time, he actually catches Thomas Sink out a little bit. Tristan Callahan caught out as well. So Tristan's going to have to fall in behind Thomas Sink. It's side by side between Jared Mogard and Charles Sumner for the 4th position. But these top 3 are off and away as they enter turn 1.
I'm honestly a little bit shocked. Thomas Sink is one of the top drivers on the restart game, and Bradley Hawley hadn't been able to catch him one single time here in the first part of this race. But with that, Hawley jumping out to almost a quarter-second advantage here as we get back underway.
Looks like the 62 truck of Mark Kalin got into the wall exiting turn 1. He was actually stacked up the field behind him. He's fallen from 10th on back to 16th position. He's just now recovering as we keep riding on board with Bradley Hawley, as Thomas Sink is falling back from him right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Maybe Sink is taking a bit of a different strategy than I expected. Maybe he's going to try to save his stuff here in the early part of the run so he can be quicker towards the end.
Well, we've passed halfway for sure now, entering lap 25. Bradley Hawley out front with Thomas Sink getting a significant draft and able to draft up to the back of him, but he keeps backing off. It is not go time for him yet. Tristan Callahan, though, very eager, tucked into the back bumper of Thomas Sink, and then Jared Mogard as well.
It really seems like Thomas Sink has a long-term plan in his head, but unfortunately it seems whoever's in 3rd spot behind him is not willing to follow his plan.
A side-by-side battle for the 8th position, the 7th position rather, with Adam Zemke and Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson involved in one of the fights we saw earlier on. That's Daniel Knight, who's tucked in behind them trying to make some time. Paul Johnson's going to go up to the racing line and block off the run from Daniel Knight. And look at this, Adam Zemke getting up to the back of Brendan Chatley up there in the 6th spot. Brendan's fallen off from this lead group as well. Paul Johnson gets a good exit there. Everyone getting a little bit wobbly there, so let's see who's going to try and make a move.
Yeah, and you look at that battle for 6th spot that you have on the screen. Look at Adam Zemke, Paul Johnson, and Daniel Knight started 13th, 17th, and 14th respectively. We've talked about this track being very hard to pass at, but these 3 drivers have seemed to have done an okay job.
Zemke took it way deep into the corner as Brendan Chatley actually backed out a little bit earlier than he was expecting, so that's going to drop him back. Daniel Knight now side by side with him for that 9th position. as they keep going, and it looks like Tristan Callahan's trying to make a move. No, Jared Mogard's making a move on Tristan Callahan up there for the third position rather.
We know Jared Mogard's not one to usually hesitate. He did get to the inside of Callahan for a moment, but it looked like he had to back out of it and lost a ton of ground.
So now it is those top two of Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink with a decent runaway here. Tristan Callahan 0.5 seconds back, and he'll need a shove to get up there with them from Jared Mogard. But Jared doesn't seem intent on working with anybody today. He wants to take positions. Whoa, Bradley Holly diving to the inside. We've got a caution. It is Nicholas Hunter in the 109 machine and Brandon Sauls in the 76.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of when we got the field all bunched back up again, that we would see another caution not too long after we went back to green. Following along here, and looks like another incident where two drivers just touched doors. Nicholas Hunter was on the outside, and just gets ran over.
He was trying to save that, and that was... that was Brandon Sauls in the 76 who ended up getting into him. Brandon did not brake for that incident and ended up plowing into his rear end. I think Nicholas would have saved it before that.
Yeah, it really seemed like Nicholas had it pretty much saved. You can see him, he gets it straightened out a little bit and then just ran over. In defense of Brandon Sauls, though, I mean, Hunter just kind of came down into the racing groove trying to get his truck back under control. So Sauls really had no time to react, nor was he really in a spot on the track where he could make a aggressive, evasive maneuver.
Also in defense of him, it was still green at that time, so he had no reason to back out and many reasons to stay in the throttle. So as they catch up to the pace car once again, it is strategy time. We have had a couple laps of green, a couple laps on these tires, and you only get 2 more for the rest of the race. Do you come down pit road and take tires, Chris?
Well, we are past halfway, and there's still 2 sets of those Goodyear Wranglers down there in pit road. So it's going to be tempting for maybe some of these guys towards the back of the field, maybe throw a fresh set of shoes on this truck and see if you can maybe make up some ground.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm Bradley Holly, I'm going to stay out because no one's really proved to be a threat to me up to this point. Thomas Sink has not shown his nose on me yet. If I'm Jared Mogard, I'm thinking about maybe coming in because of how good I am on these early runs, but at the same time, track position is so important here, especially because of how long these straights are and how difficult it is to pass into the turns.
Yeah, it's really an interesting prospect with how important track position has been. And do these guys have enough laps on the tires where making a change would be enough to justify? It's going to be an interesting one as we watch as looks like was that Bradley Holly making it down pit road?
Bradley Holly takes the top 4 down pit road. That was Charles Sumner and Brendan Chatley who stayed out, as well as Daniel Knight and Adam Zemke. So quite a few drivers, quite a bit of split strategies here. This was what the series was hoping to accomplish with implementing that tire limitation. Let's see who ends up on top once all is said and done. Bradley Holly first to his pit box in the lead there. Tristan Callahan tucked in behind him and Thomas Sink in that 3rd spot. And they are taking tires. That is 4 tires for those top 3. And that was Jared Mogard who only took 2 tires, and he jumps out ahead of the 3 of them.
So we're going to have a triple split on that strategy. Some drivers with no tires, some with 2 tires, and some with 4. So once we get back underway, there's going to be a lot of different agendas out there.
So as they run, the drivers who stayed out in the top 5 are Charles Sumner, Brendan Chatley, Daniel Knight, Adam Zemke, and Aaron Webb. And our first car to pit is Jared Mogard in the 14 machine. So he'll be our first driver who just took fresh tires, and he only took 2 right sides. Bradley Holly is our first driver on 4 tires in the 15th spot with all 4 tires. So yeah, this is going to be interesting, but another thing to note, Chris, is fuel. Now with all these caution laps, fuel might not be as much of an issue as we're thinking, but that might be another reason why we saw some of these drivers come down pit road.
That's true. You did comment during the first pit stops that you didn't think anybody would be able to make it to the end. we've had a couple cautions, maybe saving some fuel there. So we'll see. And there's also the possibility that we have a couple guys duck down pit road and take a splash before we get back underway too.
Yeah, and I would expect anyone who pitted that time would probably be able to make it for sure, but here we go. They're going to start lining up double file once again. This will be the first time Bradley Holly has not led a restart since last week. I think since the opening laps of last week, since the start. So this will be very interesting to see how this goes with some of our fastest drivers literally in the middle of the pack.
And how about Charles Sumner? Twice he's played the pit road game a little bit smarter than those around him. And with that, he first jumped up into the top 5 and now has taken himself to the lead.
Now the question will be, how will these tires behave after a decent, well, about a 3-lap green flag run and then a heat cycle? This is going to be a big unknown for these drivers. Pocono is not one of the tracks we visited last season. So that make it a challenge for them, as they won't know what they're expecting going down into turn 1 with these new trucks, new tire model. Everything's new for these guys, and it's going to be an interesting prospect when we go into turn 1.
Yeah, you may want to cover your eyes and cross your fingers for this one.
So Charles Sumner leading them through. He had a little bit of trouble keeping it down to the apexes on the first run. He's been doing better this second run. Brendan Chatley on his outside has had trouble getting back down to the inside on the first green flag run we had. Daniel Knight has been the strongest of the trucks who did not pit, and he's up in the 3rd position, so expect him to take some advantageous moves as we get ready to go back green. The pace car is leading them through the flat profiled turn 3 as we get ready to go back green. Charles Sumner will control the field as soon as the pace car pulls off, which the pace car is doing now. Charles Sumner is going to wait as the pace car pulls off. He's going to wait. He's actually going to stack up the field a little bit and then go. He waits just about a second, and that is able to give him a decent jump on Brendan Chatley, but a little bit of a lingering shift into 4th is going to leave him with a little bit to be desired. Brendan Chatley actually pulling on him quite a bit as they enter turn 1. They're going to enter side by side here. Brendan Chatley going to take a sweeping arc, which is going to make Charles Sumner have to take a little bit of a sweeping arc as well. And here comes Daniel Knight up from 3rd position. He's starting to climb.
Yeah, great entry or great exit off of turn 1 as we have trucks fanning out there towards the back of the field a little bit as we head into the tunnel turn. And I thought Daniel Knight was thinking about making a move there for a second. He thinks better of it, falls back in line. So they're going to come off the tunnel turn, headed towards turn number 3, the shortest straightaway, I believe, here at Pocono, as they head off into number 3 there.
The truck all the way down to the bottom side was Thomas Sink, our previous 2nd place driver. Bradley Holly has actually made up significant positions up to 10th position and still climbing as Charles Sumner leads ahead of Daniel Knight, who's tucked in right behind him. He might make a move into 1.
Daniel Knight does poke the nose down to the inside as they head off towards turn 1, and looks like he's going to pull even with Sumner as they head through the turn.
Daniel Knight's going to try and power it through on that bottom lane, and he's actually going to clear Sumner by the time they exit 1. Brendan Chatley looking on. Adam Zemke also trying to make a move there. Bradley Holly up to the 9th position on the inside there, leading that inside pack as he tries to make moves on those fresh tires. But look at this. Adam Zemke diving to the inside of Brendan Chatley in the tunnel turn. They're going to make contact. Brendan Chatley pushed off of line. He's able to retain the position. He's able to retain his spot there. Look at this. He crosses over, blocking Colton Lane. This is some pretty risky racing.
Well, Adam, those 3 drivers, I think, may need to buy lottery tickets right now because it is a legitimate miracle that none of them wrecked going through the tunnel turn.
And unfortunately, we have to keep our camera in one spot, but there's so much action going on all over the track. Thomas Sink got pushed extremely wide through 3, and we see so much racing going on towards the back of the pack as well, but this lead is just too good not to leave. Here we go with Daniel Knight getting pressure from Charles Sumner up there for the lead of the race. And we have another caution. This appears to be Paul Johnson in the 34. Ooh, Paul had a big ride here. Oh, and he caught Tristan Callahan, one of our previous top runners. We're going to see it right here. He got caught by the fence as well. So as we come back live, once again, another short green flag run, followed by a caution. And our drivers who took tires, Bradley Hawley is our leader of those drivers up to the 9th position. Jared Bogart, who took 2, he's down to 14th.
Yeah, one thing you always wonder when drivers do only take 2 tires is how well the truck will respond to having the different levels of wear there.
So it's going to be interesting to see what the pit strategy is going to be for these top drivers. Now, granted, the guys up at the front of the field, I wouldn't expect them to come in considering they didn't lose any positions. But anyone who's behind Bradley Hawley, at this point, I don't expect that you're going to gain anything by staying out.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, Adam. And I gotta say, you kind of have expectations of what a race at Pocono is going to look like. Those expectations have been blown out of the water so far today. There have been a fair amount of cautions, but when these guys are racing under green, the racing has been tremendous.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they're not going to have much more racing to go. They're going to be coming up to 11 to go the next time they cross the line. There isn't much racing left, so if you take a pit stop now and lose your track position, with the amount of cautions we've been getting, the likelihood is you're not going to gain it back.
Yeah, that's a very solid point as well. With the way the cautions have fallen, you give up that much track position, you might not make it back up, not because of the difficulty to pass, but there might not just be enough green flag laps left in this race.
So it's time for the rubber to meet the road here as far as strategy is concerned. We come off of turn 4, and it looks like everyone has decided to stay out. So this makes things very interesting as far as the strategy is concerned.
Yeah, you do have to wonder, though, are these cautions enough for those guys that stayed out under the last caution to make it the full distance under green? I mean, we're going to be about 10 laps left here in just a moment. So these guys are quickly running out of time if they do want to make a pit stop for fuel.
I would guess that the guys at the front have figured that one out at this point. And remember, we've had a significant amount of cautions, over 10 laps worth, and that's a lot of fuel saving you can do under yellow here in iRacing. So I would expect that they would have a handle on that. So as they run, Daniel Knight leads with Charles Sumner in 2nd, Adam Zemke in 3rd, Brendan Shatley 4th, and Colton Lane in 5th position. Our first driver who took a pit stop is Bradley Hawley in the 9th spot. Next after him is Mark Kalin in the 13th position. Thomas Sink had such bad luck last run. He's all the way back in 14th. With Jose Medina in 15th position, another driver who took tires that time by. Jared Mogard came down pit road under last lap, and he actually got 4 fresh tires, so Jared's actually back down in 27th. Those 2 tires ended up being a huge mistake for him.
Yeah, it seems like his truck did not respond to the 2-tire change very well at all, and he gave up a whole bunch of positions. But now we'll see what the 4 tires with a little bit more laps, or with the rest of the field having some more laps on theirs, is going to do.
So Daniel Knight will lead them to the green flag. There's a tucked in behind the pace car, starting to go too wide here. It will be interesting to see whether or not there is enough time for Bradley Hawley to make it back. They will restart this race with 9 laps to go, which means they'd have, if there were to be another caution, it'd have to be about 3 laps under green and then another caution. That's about as much as they could do in order to not make it to the green-white checker. We are doing okay on time at the moment. The prediction is for the race to end at 56 minutes, but remember that we do have timed races here at the PRL Truck Series, only an hour in length, so these drivers do have to be careful that they make it all the way to the end of the laps before that hour ticks off. Otherwise, they're going to have to be doing some serious strategy plays.
That's another factor that had slipped my mind. Hopefully we're able to stay green here for the remainder of this race, and hopefully that doesn't play a factor.
So they're coming tunnel turn has not bitten too many drivers this time. We've seen a couple of door-to-door contacts through there, but each of the drivers has been able to make it out there relatively cleanly. A couple of paintings of the outside wall there. And one thing that I did notice the last time I raced here with this new layout is that the safer barrier actually makes it very difficult to exit the corner as cleanly as you used to be able to because of how it's profiled out from the wall.
Yeah, that's one thing people don't always factor in with these safer barriers is how much racing space they actually do cause you to give up.
So as we get ready to go back to the Mustang pace car is going to peel off, and Daniel Knight will lead them back to the line. Daniel's going to wait. He's going to wait. He actually waits a significant amount of time. Charles Sumner got an excellent jump that time around as they fan out in the back of the pack. A little bit of a checkup going on back there. But Brendan Chatley has got a great run. Adam Zemke is actually getting stacked up behind with Colton Lane in the 60 machine stacked up in behind him. But Daniel Knight will lead them into turn one. They are 3 wided places going through turn one. Looks like it's go time.
Yeah, the pay window is definitely open now as these guys are, you can see them slicing and dicing all around the track. The patience we saw here in the early going is definitely worn thin.
Definitely worn thin for sure, as all these drivers are now snaking through the tunnel turn. And there's a big checkup there in the back. That's Colton Lane, who's very slow. Thomas Sink's going to try and dive to the inside. So is Blaine Adams in the 33 machine as our leaders go into turn 3. It's almost 3 wide there in the back of that pack. Everyone able to make it through. Thomas Sink taking a good chop out of that.
I did not see what started that, Adam, but Colton Lane...
Big wreck, big wreck. Oh. The 14 and the 41 are going around. This will be the final caution. That's Matthew Williford and Doug Evans.
That was a big hit to the inside wall for Doug Evans.
We're going to take this from the helicopter shot and take a look at it. He was on the middle 3 wide, and when they exited the corner, he makes a little bit of contact with the 33 machine because he got caught up behind Thomas Sink, and he ends up getting a little bit loose there and collecting the 41, sending them both into the wall. The 41 got the worst of it.
We're going to ride on board with the 41 and Doug Evans, and you may want to brace yourself for this one. That was a very abrupt stop when he hit that inside wall.
And that is why we have Hans devices. Everyone else managed to miss him, but that's a rough one.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can see the puffs of smoke out of the back of that machine, so a very unfortunate, probably at least end of this particular truck for Doug Evans.
So Daniel Knight currently leads the race with Charles Sumner in second, Adam Zemke in third, Brendan Chatley in fourth, and Aaron Webb in fifth position. Well, Chris, at this point, I think you've made your bed with your strategy. Coming in at this point would render your track position pretty much unrecoverable.
Yeah, for better or worse, you're committed at this point.
Speaking of that, Bradley Hawley was only able to gain 1 position that time. He is only up to 8th spot. And when we get back racing, we will have less than 5 laps to go. This is going to be a crazy race as we take a look at Bradley Hawley. He started off first. He took tires twice this race. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this works out, and it's one of those things where, you know, you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't, in the sense that if he didn't take tires, he wouldn't have been as competitive, but he had no idea that these cautions were going to come out like this.
Exactly. You kind of have to, you know, you make your bed in these kind of situations. If he hadn't come down pit road, probably everyone behind him would have anyway, and he did, and some people stayed out and it's worked to their advantage. I mean, there's still going to be a few laps left, so who knows what'll happen here in the closing stages, but I think Bradley Hawley just kind of had to do what he had to do in this circumstance.
So it looks like most folks are going to choose to stay out, except for those towards the far back of the field. They're going to come in for 4 tires as they're not going to really lose any positions here. So this might end up being a timed race. We are going to get really close by the time we come around for the green flag. We're just crossing 52 minutes, 30 seconds right now in the race, and they still have this lap and one more to do under caution. So they're going to be hard-pressed to make it back to the line at 60 minutes. That was Austin Hunter, who is the Lucky Dog machine. He's going to be able to get one of his laps back.
Yes, this is definitely going to be a photo finish as far as the time limit's concerned. I'm still interested to see what Daniel Knight and Charles Sumner do on the front row. Those guys had a great battle going on, Adam, before we went under caution.
Yeah, they did, and Adam Zemke, even after his tough restart where he stacked up multiple cars up behind him, he got pushed actually pretty well into turn 1 and was able to fight with Brendan Chatley and regain that third position. So he's going to be starting on the inside for this restart. But we've seen with all these restarts that the inside actually hasn't been that good of a place to start.
Yeah, and the people leading the restarts have also done a really good job timing them out. Especially that last restart Bradley Holly had up front was just about a work of art when he caught Thomas Sink at just the right time to where Sink didn't have a chance to react. So a lot of a different strategy being played throughout these restarts.
Speaking of Thomas Sink, he has moved up to the 10th position, so he's been able to recover. I mean, we saw some of the moves he was making, and he was able to recover some of that lost ground that he had because of that unfortunate restart beforehand. But as we go back too wide, we're riding on board right now with Adam Zemke as we see he lines up right in behind our leader, Daniel Knight. 5 to go this time by. A predicted finish of 59 minutes plus. This is going to be a photo finish regardless of how this finishes, and it will definitely be a time-limited race, whether we get another caution or not. If we get another caution, we've seen this happen a couple times before here on the GSRC, what will end up happening is we will have a one-lap shootout. And that gets really confusing. But if that ends up happening, we will talk you through it as it happens. But Daniel Knight will lead them to the green flag with Charles Sumner in second, Adam Zemke third, Brendan Chatley fourth, and Colin Carroll fifth.
I think it's going to have to be you calling that one-lap shootout, Adam. I don't think, no matter how many times I see it happen, I still can't wrap my brain around it.
So as we come through turn 3 here, the Mustang, well, turn 2 rather, this is the tunnel turn. The Mustang pace car leading them through there at 75 miles per hour. 75 miles per hour may seem fast for us, but for these guys, it is achingly slow, and especially with the time ticking down, just coming up to 56 minutes, these guys really want to get racing, and I think we're going to see some crazy moves here on this final restart. And here we go, exiting turn 3. The Mustang pace car will pull off, and Daniel Knight will lead them to the green. So here we go as we get back onto the front stretch. The Mustang pace car pulls off. Daniel Knight has control of the field, and he waits a moment and jumps. He beats Charles Sumner to the punch this time by, and he's got a huge gap on the field. He's able to get up to that high line before they even get close to turn 1, and everyone's stacked in up behind him.
Yeah, Daniel Knight fired off early and did a great job getting out in front.
So Daniel Knight out in front right now. Charles Sumner tucked in that second position. Ooh, that's a truck going way high. That is Brendan Chatley, who's pushed out to the outside. They're 3 wide. Now as they go down the first straightaway here, they're able to sort it all out, but it looks like Thomas Sink's going to think about taking it 3 wide again, unable to do so. Charles Sumner tucked in behind Daniel Knight. He's going to have to work hard to get back. Oh, we have a spinning truck to the inside. That, I believe, is Adam Shane, and we're going to have massive incidents. I believe everyone's still going. We're still green as we keep going here. Oh, a big wreck in the backfield. That's going to bring out the caution, and this will go to a one-lap shootout.
Well, Adam, in all fairness, this crash probably should have started 3 times before it actually did. We had drivers banking off the wall multiple times. As you'll see here, some of them heading towards that safer barrier right there.
Yeah, 24 ends up getting caught out, and then I believe that was, I can't tell who it was. One of the riding shotgun machines ends up trying to dodge him, and it just causes a huge mess. We're still trying to sort this one out, but that has taken out quite a few drivers. We're going to try a replay on Stacy Hunter in the 71 machine to see if he was involved. Stacy ends up catching the back end of the wreck and ends up with significant engine damage. So now comes the waiting game, Chris, as we wait for the iRacing stewards to decide whether or not we finish under yellow or get a one-lap green-white checker.
And the best part is we can't confer with the stewards because it's all digital. So we wait to find out with bated breath here what the resolution on the finish of this race is going to be.
And the fascinating part is we might not even know this lap. So we will have to wait to see what happens, as our race control driver Charles Sumner can't really make it any easier for us. So as we go through turn 3, we're going to find out whether or not the determination is made this time by. Since they do over a minute per lap, I believe it should be, but we'll keep our eyes peeled to the iRacing stewards. And we do get the green-white checkered, so this will be a one-lap shootout for these drivers. So this will be a fascinating finish for sure. Can anybody catch up to Daniel Knight by the time they make it back around, or will we get another caution to end this race?
I mean, Daniel's done such a tremendous job on these restarts. I would be surprised if any of those around him are really able to make anything happen just because of how masterfully he's played these restarts.
Yeah, but Chris, I gotta point out something. Bradley Hawley was able to climb his way up to 5th. He is now 5th place, which is 3rd in line. This guy has made significant positions. This is going to be very interesting for sure.
Yeah, that 184 truck is going to be the one to keep your eye on. If anyone's going to make anything crazy happen in this last lap, it's going to be Bradley Hawley jumping out and making some magic happen.
Now, if you think for 1 second that Bradley Hawley is okay with Daniel Knight winning this race, he's absolutely not. Daniel Knight is only 1 point behind him in the standings. He's tied with Jared Mogard, who we know has had some trouble and has been trying to recover. Jared's all the way back up to 14th after taking 2 tires that last time by. But Daniel Knight is gonna want to win this race and be able to be one of the first drivers in a while to take the championship lead over Bradley Hawley.
It has been a pretty long time since somebody besides Bradley Hawley's been leading the standings in this series.
So just ticked over an hour, but we are yet to go to 2 by 2 here. So we wait with bated breath to see what the iRacing pace car does here. He is going to continue on and not peel off, so that means we will definitely get a restart here, but the question is, what will it look like? And that we won't know until everybody crosses the line. So Daniel Knight will start off this restart in the lead with Charles Sumner in 2nd, Adam Zemke in 3rd, Colin Carroll in 4th, and Bradley Hawley in 5th as they go double file.
So this one should be a very interesting resolution to this race. One way or the other, something's going to happen.
Definitely, and the question will be who will win it. Daniel Knight's in the best position considering he leads the restart, but we've seen Charles Sumner get a great start on the outside before, so he definitely has the likelihood to do that again. So as we get ready to go, they're coming through the first of the 2 back straights coming towards the tunnel turn. All right, if you're in 5th and you're Bradley Hawley, Chris, what do you do here on this final lap to try and get something done?
Are you silly? I'm just going to send it.
You think you're just going to stack it up, try and go 4 wide into turn 1 and hope it sticks?
Close your eyes, put the pedal down, and hope for the best.
Well, I expect that's what everyone's going to do in the back of the pack, so we'll have our eyes glued to that for sure. Charles Sumner, we know what he has to do. He has to try and beat Daniel Knight to turn 1 and stay on the outside there. Colin Carroll, this is one of his first times being up there in that 4th position, tucked in behind Charles Sumner. He's had a quiet, good race today. And Adam Zemke in that 4th spot. We saw he didn't get a great restart last time. He needs to get a better one this time in order to make sure he doesn't get passed once again. So as we go to the exit of 3, the pace car is going to peel off, and we'll find out whether or not we get one lap or just this run to the line. The pace car peels off. Daniel Knight waits a moment and jumps. He beats Charles Sumner to the punch. This time Adam Zemke gets a good restart. Bradley Holly does as well. Charles Sumner now being pushed by Colin Carroll down the front stretch. And here we go as we go into turn 1. Daniel Knight with a decent lead, about 4 car lengths, about 4 truck lengths as they go through. This is the last lap. This will be the final lap. They're going to go 4 wide as they exit turn 1 behind. Oh, and Bradley Holly clips the inside curb. He's able to get up ahead of them. He's now up to 3rd spot.
Bradley Holly trying to make some magic happen here on the last lap. He's already up to 3rd, as you mentioned, Adam, getting a push from Colin Carroll. And is he going to make a move through the tunnel turn?
He's not able to. He actually pushes out a little bit wide. Colin Carroll are trying to hold on to that spot. And here we go, exiting the final turn. Look at this. Daniel Knight with such a good run out there. He's going to be able to snake away for the win. Colin Carroll is going to be coming home in 2nd place with Bradley Holly in 3rd. What a finish.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm surprised we made it to turn 1 in that lap, let alone all the way around.
Everybody able to race clean for that final lap. A great finish there from Daniel Knight to take home the win. Turns out that it was Adam Zemke in 2nd. The paint swap ended up confusing me there, with Bradley Holly coming home in the 3rd spot there. So everybody doing good there to finish this race. Daniel Knight taking home the win. All right, so we're going to take a look at our finishing results this time. Daniel Knight coming home with that win, as I mentioned. Adam Zemke in 3rd. Adam Zemke in 2nd. Bradley Holly coming home in 3rd, with Colin Carroll in the 4th spot. Charles Sumner in 5th, with Aaron Webb finishing 6th spot. Colton Lane's going to come home in 7th, with Brendan Chadley 8th. Thomas Sink 14th to 9th on that last restart, and Mark Kalin finishing in 10th.
After struggling on that 2-tire change, Jared Mogard comes home in the 11th spot, with Brett Adams and Nicholas Schwartz with a fairly quiet day to finish 12th and 13th. Doyle Lawrence comes home 14th, with Tristan Callahan fading to 15th after running up front early on. Blaine Adams and Adam Young will finish 16th and 17th respectively, with Matthew Aubrey, John LaBaff, and Brandon Walter completing your top 20.
Mike Richter finishes 21st, with Austin Hunter 22nd position. Jeffrey Ford's going to come home 23rd, with Jose Medina coming home in 24th position. Nicholas Hunter comes home 25th, and Christopher B. Williams comes home 26th. Then we have drivers who ran into major problems. Barron Hilton, Adam Shane, and Stacy Hunter are 4 laps down. Matthew Williford 5 laps down in 30th.
And some of our non-finishers will be popping up onto the screen here for the last part of the grid. It was Doug Evans who was mixed up in a couple incidences, and then Paul Johnson, William Lee, Brandon Sauls, Brody Green, and J.R. Bash, non-finishers in this event.
Well, a very interesting race, and it will shake up the points just a little bit. Daniel Knight will leap to the top of the points ladder with Bradley Holly. I think he will be about 1 point behind Daniel Knight by the end of this race. They might actually end up tied going into next week. So as we wait to... So that is actually going to take us out for... So that's actually going to be able to... We're going to end up talking to our 2nd place driver, Adam Zemke here. I stand corrected. We're going to end up talking to Daniel Knight, our winner tonight. Daniel, a fantastic race you had today, and it ends up that the pit strategy ended up winning you the race.
Yeah, I'm really glad that worked out the way that I'd hoped it would. Yeah, I was just thinking after we had that one little run that I would rather be up front on old tires than back in the gauntlet on new tires.
So talk to me about that final restart. How'd you set up for it, and what did you think coming through the final turn when you saw everyone battling in behind you?
Oh, that was a beautiful sight. I just tried to get as good of a start as I could, and the tires were pretty old at that point, so just tried to keep it straight. And I thought if I could beat Charles to turn 1, then I could at least have a good run, maybe pull away a little bit. But once I saw them battling back there, that was good to see, because I know Carroll was on new tires, and it wasn't going to be long before he was up there with me.
Well, Daniel, unfortunately, we're running short on time tonight, but is there anyone you want to thank for the win before we let you go?
As always, my riding shotgun guys, and thanks to you guys at GSRC and PRL for putting on an awesome league. This is one of my favorite things to do every week.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Daniel, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Indianapolis.
All right, thanks, Adam.
All right, that was Daniel Knight, our winner, and that's actually going to close us out for tonight. We want to give a big thank you to the Precision Racing League for bringing us back on for another season, and a big thank you to this season's sponsors, Diecast Kings, as well as the iRacing Flea Market, and for ButtKicker as well for sponsoring this season. Make sure to visit all of them at their respective websites. We want to give a big thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. As always, many thanks to June Luan, who provides our awesome music. See the screen to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to today's crew, Sean, Chris, and Dougie. If you want to find out more about GSRC, including our updated races, you can check out all of our social media platforms that are down in the description. If you want to see more racing action, hit the big red subscribe button as well so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next session is going to be Indianapolis, July 1st at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're not going to want to miss that one. That is always a tough race for these trucks for sure. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. We hope you've enjoyed joining us tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you. We hope to see you back on our channel soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.